The Occoquan Radio Podcast is a private production and is not affiliated with the town of Occoquan. Opinions expressed on the podcast are solely those of its host and guests. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 44 of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Ernie Porta, bringing you 10 to 15 minutes of irregular, unscheduled updates on things Occoquan and beyond. This episode, I'll share a little of what occurred at the last town council meeting, honor Veterans Day and the 250th anniversary of the Marine Corps by discussing in our history segment information on one of, if not the only, Occoquan veteran of World War I, address the closure of Third Base Pizza in our Rumor Mill Shredder entry, and close with upcoming activities in town. Make sure you don't miss an episode by searching for us on the podcasting app of your choice and hitting the subscribe button. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. Our last council meeting was held on Wednesday, November 5th, rather than the normal Tuesday, due to Election Day. As those of you who voted are aware, there was a special election for a town council seat to finish out the term of Nancy Brinton. Bob Love, who has been serving as a council appointee, was elected to complete her term. At the meeting on November 5th, the council adopted a resolution recognizing the sesquicentennial, or 150th anniversary, of the first elected council of the town of Occoquan. The council also received a report on the Fall Arts and Crafts Show. In financial terms, the show generated about $13,000 more net revenue than budgeted. Additionally, it's worth noting that some 11 organizations contributed financially as sponsors of the show, and close to 90% of the vendors indicated they would participate again. Volunteers were, of course, a critical part of the show's success, and we continue to look forward to increasing their number. The council also received a quarterly report from Visit Occoquan, the 501c3 organization with whom the town contracts for the modest amount of about $5,000 to assist in the marketing of town businesses and events, tourism promotion, education, and economic development services. Among the highlights in the report were increases, sometimes dramatic, in subscriber and viewer engagement. There is a substantial amount of detail in the report, and for those who are interested, both this report and the report on the Fall Arts and Crafts Show are available on the town website and in the online agenda packets. As some of our listeners may know, although Veterans Day was officially established in 1954, one of its origin points is November 11, 1919, the day the armistice went into effect that ended the First World War. This date became the federal holiday of Armistice Day, which eventually evolved to become Veterans Day. So in our history segment this episode, I want to honor Veterans Day by sharing some research I've been able to do on one of, perhaps the only, Occoquan veteran of World War I. That individual was Wilton Vernon Davis. Mr. Davis was born on January 18, 1889, in Fairfax County, and sometime before 1910 his family moved to Occoquan, at which point, according to the 1910 census, he was, at age 21, living here solely with his mother Sally, aged 63. Wilton's father, who was from Fairfax, apparently passed away in 1906, which may have been what prompted the remaining family's move to Occoquan, for that appears to have been his mother's hometown. Wilton's mother followed his father a decade later, passing away in 1916 of tuberculosis. Later census data shows that Wilton completed school through the 7th grade, and at the time of the 1910 census had no occupation. That later changed, for according to his World War I draft registration card from 1917, Wilton was then a traveling salesman for the Carey Safe Company of Buffalo, New York. The registrar's report from the clerk of the Circuit Court of Prince William County on the draft registration card lists Wilton as of medium height and build, with blue eyes and light hair. The clerk who signed the card was none other than the well-known Occoquan resident, Tyson Janney. Wilton joined the U.S. Army on December 14, 1917, at Camp Meade, Maryland, and according to the U.S. Army Transport Service's passenger lists, was a private assigned to Company K, 23rd Regiment of Engineers, U.S. Army. he shipped out from Hoboken, New Jersey on March 30th, 1918, aboard the ship the George Washington. His listed next of kin, used like our emergency contact today, was his brother, Nathan Coffer Davis of Lorton, Virginia. The ship on which he sailed, the George Washington, has its own interesting history. It was a Bremen, German-based ocean liner built in 1908 and named after George Washington. When she launched, she was the largest German-built steamship and the third largest ship in the world. It was allegedly one of the ships that spotted a large iceberg south of the Grand Banks on April 14th of 1912 and radioed a warning to all ships, including the Titanic. When World War I broke out in August of 1914, the George Washington was in New York and interned by the United States. When the U.S. entered the war in April of 1917, the ship was seized by the U.S. and used as a troop transport, eventually taking about 48,000 people to France. It was also the ship that carried U.S. President Woodrow Wilson to France twice for the Paris Peace Conference. As for the 23rd Regiment of Engineers, according to an association of armored veterans, the 23rd Regiment was constituted on the 15th of August 1917, and it took just 3 weeks to gather a corps of men and activate the unit at Camp Meade. They began deploying to France in November of 1917, about 4 or 5 months before Wilton did. Their service and support of the American Expeditionary Force earned them the title the Road Builders of the AEF. This would have involved building and maintaining roads destroyed by weaponry, dealing with the mud and other natural challenges to armies, and rehabilitating areas contaminated by chemical weapons. The unit earned 3 campaign streamers during World War I for Lorraine, Saint-Mihiel, and the Meuse-Argonne. In June of 1919, the unit was returned to the United States, and Less 1 Battalion was demobilized on the 16th of June at Camp Devens, Massachusetts. The remaining battalion was inactivated 3 days later at Camp Mills, New York. Occoquan's Wilton Vernon Davis returned from overseas on June 19, 1919, and was honorably discharged on June 21, 1919, without injury. Subsequent censuses indicate that he remained single throughout his life and lived with his older brother in town. At some point, according to his death certificate, he moved to Oxford, Pennsylvania, but then died at the VA hospital in Hampton, Virginia, on December 18, 1971. He is buried at the Pohick Episcopal Church Cemetery, where you can still view his headstone today. I encourage everyone who is interested in learning more about Occoquan history to visit Occoquan's Millhouse Museum and consider joining the Occoquan Historical Society. You can find more information at www.occoquanhistoricalsociety.org. And while we're talking about the Historical Society, I want to take a moment to recognize the recent Diamond and Platinum sponsors of the Society. These sponsors have given $1,000 and $500 respectively to support the Occoquan Historical Society. Recent Diamond sponsors include, in addition to the ongoing and substantial support of VFW Post 7916, DeRocco's Restaurant and Jerry's Occoquan Jewelers. Our new Platinum sponsors include Prince William Marina and the wonderful owner of Forever Young, Gretchen Chapman. Thank you and all of our other supporters and members for helping us preserve and tell Occoquan's story. That's the intro sound for our Rumor Mill Shredder segment. This is where we pay homage to the fact that while for much of its history Occoquan was a prosperous mill town, the only mill in operation today is the rumor mill. Here we take on urban legends, myths, rumors, or other similar topics that need straightening out. This episode, I want to tackle the rumors regarding the closure of Third Base Pizza. Yes, Third Base has closed, but it's not completely disappearing. Instead, it's taking another form as a new enterprise that will be a takeout and delivery pizza establishment behind elements at the old Marin wood-turning shop. Additionally, the old site of Third Base is now going to host a real butcher's shop. We're looking forward to that, and it's unlikely, of course, the latter will open before Thanksgiving, but I remain hopeful it will be operating before Christmas. Speaking of Thanksgiving and Christmas, I want to mention again that several groups are collaborating in town for a Thanksgiving food drive from now through November 26th. Curate at 302 Mill Street is hosting an initiative that involves partnering with VFW Post 7916, who is serving as a collection point. Wayner Realty Group, who is collecting donations and supplying insulated bags for the meal kits, and Hello Jackson, who is offering a free mini room spray to donors. Now for upcoming events. Leaf and Petal has its Leaves and Literacy Book Club leaning on November 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. Laura Jones Fine Art Gallery continues its painting classes on November 13th and 15th. Also on the 15th, Hello Jackson will hold a permanent jewelry sip and shop from 11 to 2. And of course, start making plans now for one of our most enjoyable nights of the year, our nighttime shopping event and annual tree lighting on Saturday, November 22nd. The time-honored tradition of the tree lighting will take place in front of Town Hall at 6 p.m., leaving plenty of time before and after to check out all the holiday offerings of the town's shops and restaurants. There will be a free shuttle service from 1 to 9 p.m. For more information on these and other events in Occoquan, go to www.visitoccoquanva.com/events. That brings us to the end of this episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. Make sure you don't miss an episode by searching for us on the podcasting app of your choice and hitting the subscribe button. I'm your host, Ernie Porta. Thank you for listening.